Did you know that Ralph Rangnick has the lowest win percentage of any Manchester United manager since Dave Sexton in 1981? I don't know who that is either, but this is what United are currently dealing with. And in this video, we're going to talk about Ralph Rangnick again. We've covered him quite a lot in Tifo IRL, but we're going to look specifically at how his teams have played since he's been in charge and whether he's made a difference to them. So we know that he's supposed to bring this sort of, he's the godfather of pressing and all this sort of stuff. So we're going to look at actually, there is a difference in how United play compared to what they were under Gunnar Solskjaer. And we're going to focus specifically on the two Liverpool games they played this season. One under Solskjaer when they lost 5-0, and then the one under Rangnick where they lost 4-0. And they got absolutely pumped. Let's look at what Rangnick's actually done to them and made them different. He's tried a few different shapes since he's come in. And again, we've covered this quite a lot. He's played a 4-2-2-2, a 4-3-3, a 4-2-3-1, which is exactly the same as what Solskjaer was using most of the time. Against Liverpool, this is the last shape they started with. It was a back three, Phil Jones back from wherever on earth he's been. And the reason he played an extra defender, he says, is because he doesn't have any of the ball-winning midfielders that he wanted to have. Lots of injuries. Important players like Fred, Varane, Shaw, McTominay. Ronaldo was missing for this one. Sancho was on the bench. It's kind of things he's dealing with here. Liverpool, obviously, a superb team, very difficult. Rangnick's teams, statistically, believe it or not, are sort of better. So we can look at the expected goals per game as a good way to kind of measure it. It's not exact, but Solskjaer's team in the Premier League this season had 1.4 expected goals per game and 1.6 expected goals against. So that's the amount of chances they were conceding according to the expected goals model. Now, Rangnick's is better. They produce more chances per game, so it's 1.52, which is up, obviously, in expected goals, and 1.14 expected goals against, which is obviously down, and that is good. So they are more structured, and Jurgen Klopp alluded to this, in fact, he just said it in an interview, that's what he's done, made them more structured. They concede less. That's definitely something they do. The idea was that Solskjaer's team lacked cohesion, and they had no identity, and looked like a bunch of individuals on a pitch. But Rangnick sort of looks like that as well, but he's supposed to bring them together and make them all hard to break down, and we'll look at some of the reasons that they are getting torn apart so easily just in a bit. And the other thing is, if we assume that Rangnick's team are supposed to press a lot, that's what we think they're going to do, we can look at some data to measure whether they are actually doing that. And what we can see is that last season, when Solskjaer was in charge, United had the 5th most pressures in the attacking third, so trying to put pressure on players in this part of the pitch here. They were the 5th most in the league. Top was Liverpool, as you might expect, then Leeds, Sheffield United, oddly were there, and Manchester City. Now this season, under half of Solskjaer and half of Rangnick, so it's not perfect, but the numbers, they still help us out here. So not only is it the number actually less, but they are the 4th lowest. So you still have Liverpool, Leeds are high up there, Arsenal, Man City, they're all high up. United are sitting 4th bottom. So we can see that from the numbers that they don't pressure as much in the attacking third as you might associate a Rangnick team. That's what we really think his teams would do. So what do they do differently? Is there anything? Has he actually done anything since he's been in charge? Let's have a look at the two Liverpool games and try and find out now. That's what we'll do. So this is the team that Rangnick started the game with. There's a few reasons for it, most of them injuries. He says that they're missing their ball-winning midfielders, so to play an extra central defender, which is Phil Jones coming here, Matic and Pogba as midfield 2, and then you have 3 forwards, Rashford, Elanga and Fernandes. It's essentially a 3-4-1-2. Fernandes would drop in here, you get Rashford and Elanga. It's also a 5-4-1. The numbers don't really matter. One of the things we definitely know he wanted to do was have Wan-Bissaka stop Robertson from getting up too much, so he was pushing up quite high. And at times it made this look like a 4-4-2. You'd have Fernandes up top next to Rashford, you'd have Elanga around a bit here at the left, Matic and Pogba would come up, and you have Lindelof, Maguire, Jones, and Dalot was playing at left back or left wing back from the very start. Now, one of the things that I think I noticed in this game was just the sheer amount of depth between the centre backs and the strikers. Now, Rangnick's talked about this after the game. He said they don't want to be playing too high a line. They want to keep it a bit deep. You don't want to be too deep because you encourage lots of pressure, but you want to be at the point where you're not getting caught at halfway, because then you get balls over the top for players like Salah, Mane, Diaz to get in behind. You want to try and stay compact, especially against a counter-attack team like Liverpool. If they're going to do you really quickly through the middle, you want to be less open than United were, but they regularly look like this. They're trying to press or show the ball in a certain area. Fernandes, Rashford. This is the thing, it's weird. So they're near to defenders, but they're not actually putting any pressure on, especially Rashford, who would regularly get somewhere over here and just allow Alexander-Arnold to play passes far too easily. And Elanga was kind of guilty of it as well. They're just United look like they're doing stuff, but they're not actually doing anything. This is one of the problems they've got. And that's not tactical, that's the players individually. There's nothing Rangnick can do other than tell them to do more, and then they don't do it. So there's a lot of depth between the furthest fit player forward and the deepest player. That's kind of bad. A lot of width as well. Now, what we can look at is the first goal that Liverpool score in this 4-0 win and where it comes from. So this is how I see the first goal, right? So Liverpool build from the back, as they normally do. You have Van Dijk and Matip at the back. Ball goes to Matip. Ball goes out to Alexander-Arnold. Now, Rashford and Fernandes are the ones trying to apply the pressure. And like I said, they're not actually doing very much. They're sort of showing the ball where it should go, but not enough. Now, Dallow's playing at left wing back. This position here, once Alexander-Arnold gets the ball, Salah drops to receive, Dallow follows. So he's at the halfway line. Alexander-Arnold then wants to play this pass in here. He has Elanga sort of closing him down over here. Then Matic comes across to join in, and he's trying to anticipate. So this ball comes in here, Matic is around here, and what he wants to do is make sure this ball can't go in here and can't go into this guy here. But Henderson just drops a little bit back. Matic then tries to read it and aggressively goes to try and stop the ball going into here, doesn't do it, it goes back into Henderson anyway. So that's a sort of a mistake from Matic. His positioning slightly off a couple of yards. One of the things you get from a better player than Matic would probably be able to cut this pass out, right? But the other thing that's bad about it is that he's gone and left all this space. So just leaving this position here. Now Pogba's somewhere over here. He sees Mane is here. He sees him, because you can see it on the highlights. Doesn't bother doing anything, just sort of sees Mane wander about here. Our friend Harry Maguire, don't want to be too harsh on this guy, but woof. He's going to play a big part in a second. So Matic is here, tries to help out with this bit here. Salah is able to take the ball with him. Dalot is back, passes into Henderson. Henderson doesn't really get properly challenged from Matic. He's just sort of there. It looks like he's doing stuff, but he's not really doing it. Henderson then fires it into Mane. He's in here, just lifts the ball over to him. Mane is now in a position where he can choose what happens with the ball next. So while this has all been happening, you've got Wan-Bissaka is quite high up the pitch because he's meant to watch Andy Robertson over here. And obviously as this play, or this move continues, Robertson starts to push up. Wan-Bissaka will run back in with Robertson. But more importantly, Pogba has left Mane in this position here. He could easily have shifted across. Fernandes is doing his little, looks like he's doing stuff up here, pressure, but not actually coming back to help in. Rashford is the forward, so we let him off with this one. While this has been happening, Maguire has spotted that Pogba hasn't closed this down. So Maguire steps in as the leader to try and close him down. Then that leaves him at halfway, which leaves Phil Jones and Victor Lindelof versus Luis Diaz. And all this guy has to do is make this run in between the centre-backs, and Mane just has to find him with this sort of ball, which he does, comes in, Diaz outpaces them easily, gets in to score. Now, this is meant to be a back three. It's turned into a back four because of Maguire's positioning stepping out here. Jones, understandably not able to cover this. Lindelof was pretty useless throughout the game. And you don't have to take my word for it, because Ralph Rangnick talked about this after the game, and he said, the first goal after 6 minutes was not part of our game plan. To be that high up and press that high up and concede a transitional moment after 6 minutes, that was not part of the game plan, obviously. Because we had all the players at the halfway line, and then they, being Liverpool, were at their very best. That's one of the best counter-attacking teams in the league. But you could see it, our left side, as in this part here, was completely open, and in the end it was an easy tap-in after 5 seconds after they played the ball from the back. And that was it. It was about 5 seconds playing the ball from goalkeeper to centre-backs, out to here, ding, ding, ding. So easy. It's really, really poor. So yes, that was the first goal in the 4-0 defeat. Now, I'm going to show you my version of the first goal they conceded also after about 5 minutes. In the 5-0, the way it works is they're playing a 4-2-3-1, as has been happening a lot this season under Solskjaer and Rangnick. Fernandes has been joining Ronaldo as a front two, so it looks more like a 4-4-2, which is very similar to what Rangnick's 4-2-2-2 is. You know, it's the same sort of, it's the same thing really, it's 4-2-3-1. Alisson has the ball in this situation, he passes the ball out to Van Dijk. Now Van Dijk's on the ball, Robertson's over here. As in the 4-0, Wan-Bissaka pushes up to lead the press. Brave Wan-Bissaka goes to the press. Fernandes is, again, looking like he's doing pressure. He's showing the ball one way, doesn't really do much with it. Rashford's out of the game over here. Because Wan-Bissaka's here, it leaves an awful weird shape. So what Lindelof does is come across to form this sort of weird thing here. Maguire's over here, Shaw is then over here. It's effectively a back three now. So Jota pulls out to this side here. Wan-Bissaka does not do enough. Robertson gets the ball around to Jota. Now, Lindelof's in trouble. The ball is now here with Jota in this bit here. Firmino comes over. McTominay is caught wrong side of him, so is Fred. That's nothing new really. Firmino's in here. The ball comes in. Now, Firmino is a false 9. Maguire keeps following him out. Now maybe I don't know if he's been told to or if he just likes doing that, but Firmino is meant to be the number 9. He drops here. Maguire cannot just leave him where he is and hold position, hold shape, give yourself more time for your teammates to come back. Instead, of course, he pushes out to try and get close to him, and that leaves Shaw on his own. So Firmino is over here. Salah has come into this space here and has noticed what's going on, because as soon as he comes in here, he leaves this space for the run. If Maguire's here holding more like a sweeper, it's not ideal, but certainly the way I think you should do this. If he's here, no one playing off the last man, you can see everyone where you are. Salah's going to make this run, but he might not do that if Maguire's here, because it's more difficult to make it. Maguire might be stepping over. Shaw can maybe try and lead him somewhere else. Instead, Maguire's here, the big gap is there, this is bad. Firmino can thread in Salah, Shaw comes across, because he's only one here, and then you've got Naby Keita, who's joined in the attack, and it's just all on his own. So it's just Shaw against him, he comes in, and he scores it. So there are the same sort of problems. Maguire is stepping out when he shouldn't really do that. Bad organisation around there. The communication is absent between Lindelof, Maguire and Shaw. These are the things that you'd think, if United are suddenly better and more organised, that they don't do. But they regularly get torn apart even when they have their 2 ball-winning midfielders and Fred and McTominay in the situation here. So Rangnick, what difference has he been able to make there? He's had no pre-season, so this is one thing that's really relevant, right? So managers get most of their fitness work and their pressing and their organisational stuff, all that sort of stuff that is done over the 6-week or 5-week period you get in pre-season. Rangnick has not had that. So they're going off of what Solskjaer and his coaches have done before, trying to implement bits and pieces and how they've done it. So what you have seen is that United play far more compact out of possession most of the time. But as soon as they come up against someone good like Liverpool, you've got Firmino dropping into holes that lead Maguire out of his position, and they just let teams go straight through them. That's what we see time and time again. And then the other thing you can't really coach is players making stupid decisions during the game. And in fact, I'll go and show you the 3rd goal that Liverpool scored in the 4-0, just to jump back and forward in time. I hope the timeline's working for you. So at half-time, Rangnick changes everything, swaps Wan-Bissaka around with Dalot, makes it a bit more of a 4-4-2. Sancho comes on for Jones, he goes back into the full Jones box. And I think this is Rashford and Fernandes up front, playing here, and then Alanga's over in this bit here, right? The structure's better. They were much better in the second half. They were able to go at Liverpool for a little bit, about 25 minutes, played really well. But what you did see is an example of something, or a player doing something they shouldn't do. So this is Rangnick's quote about what happens in this goal. We played exactly that kind of ball before the 3rd goal we didn't want to play, a 15-yard ball into their pressing zone. So this is what Lindelof did. He's been told not to. Steps forward, sees Alanga is here. So Alanga, as again Rangnick said, is meant to be playing in behind players. So he's meant to be able to stretch the defence so they can get balls in behind. And Lindelof can hit these sort of passes. But for whatever reason, nerves, confidence, whatever's going on here, Alanga is followed by Robertson, has his back to goal. Lindelof fires this pass along the ground. Now the reason this is bad is because Robertson in Liverpool, all of Liverpool, are waiting for this exact pass. Because the minute this comes in, Robertson pushes up, intercepts it far too easily. Alanga doesn't hold up to it very well, but that's what happens. It's too easy to rob it. He times it, sees it coming, steals it. Then Liverpool are on the break, and within seconds, they basically have like a 4v4, I think, so it's something crazy like that. And they get on goal, and I think Mane's the one that scores it. Doesn't really matter how the rest of it goes. That's how it happened. Lindelof plays a ball he shouldn't have been playing because he's been told not to. Robertson steals it, Liverpool attack in exactly the same way. And then the 4th goal is the kind of thing I just do not understand why this happens. Alanga comes off, Hannibal comes on, runs around kicking people. It's quite fun, actually, and enjoyed that. And this is what the shape looks like. So Maguire's options are very limited. Doesn't really have anyone because Matic is doing that thing where he hides behind this guy. Should move into here to offer a pass, which is very risky. You couldn't play this pass if Mane's there, he might snap into it. Maguire in a bit of a rush. Lindelof drops back a little bit to offer him the deeper ball, but Maguire rushes it. So what you can see is he's got players over here. Hannibal, Lingard, Dalot, they're all in the sort of area. He's in the half space, don't really know why. It's not something he's definitely been told to do. Hannibal pulls out wide because he sees that maybe this is an option. And Maguire is trying to hit this ball over here, I think is what he's trying to do, but instead he puts it just straight out here. If it's a missed kick, then it's obviously just a terrible error of technique. If it's a decision, I don't know what he's thinking. Hannibal tries to control it, can't really do it. He's pressured, I think, by someone like Robertson. We'll say it's Robertson for now, right? Pressures him. Is going to lose the ball. Jota's over here and then gets onto it. Now, Maguire has already been caught out with doing the thing where he follows the player into the pitch already, and he's done it multiple times. He'll have been coached either not to do this or when to do it. Mane, as he did all during the game, you think he's the 9, he just drops slightly deeper. He drops to about here, and Maguire naturally just is desperate to get involved and drops in here. And then you see where the danger is, because Salah can just run into this area here, play the ball through. That's what happens. It's because, again, Maguire leaves his position to try and follow someone in. And Mane's not even doing it properly. He's not properly trying to get away from him. He just knows that if he stands here, Maguire will do that. That's what happens. Ball comes in to Salah. Salah comes in. Boom, goal. And that is how Liverpool absolutely did them in. But this is the thing, the stats show that United are slightly better under Rangnick. They concede fewer chances. But when it comes down to it, in the big games, when the tactics go out the window or just aren't listened to, it is the players who are causing the problem. And no matter who comes in, well, it's Ten Hag's going to come in, have to deal with this sort of thing. There are a lot of positions they need to just replace straight outright. You could say that Rangnick, one thing he'll definitely leave them with when he does go, is that he's brought through players like Hannibal's now getting games, Alanga's come in to be a competent member of the squad, and there'll be others who get their chance later on. But although statistically they show they're slightly different, there is not much of a difference in how United play under Rangnick to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and I would say that's probably indicative of the players who are there. But equally, Ralph Rangnick does have the lowest win percentage of any United manager since Dave Sexton. Good old Dave Sexton!
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is where the Ralph Rangnick to Manchester United story broke, where a team of journalists have provided unrivaled coverage of Newcastle United's new ownership, and where dedicated writers cover every Premier League team no matter their place in the table. And you can try it free now for 30 days.